Why is it that some athletes always seem to fall short, no matter how hard they train or how much talent they possess? Well, time and time again, we see that the key difference lies not in the physical game, but the mental game. As a mental performance coach for pro athletes, what many people don't realize is that the very elite not only move towards certain things that will make them successful, but they also spend a lot of time and energy moving away from certain things that can reduce their mental strength. And these are things that if you don't actively cut them out, then you'll never fulfill your potential as an athlete. So let's get straight to the point. Here are 6 things that mentally strong athletes don't do. Number 1 is constant complaining. Constantly focusing on negatives and voicing complaints creates a mindset of helplessness and negativity. When you complain, you're essentially using up physical and mental energy on things outside of your control. Energy that could and should be used to improve your skills, abilities, and fuel peak performances. We all know the athletes who spend the majority of their time whinging and moaning at every single referee decision. And it's just a distraction for them and their teammates. That negative energy in most cases leads to below average performance. Every complaint about the weather, having to do another lap around the field, or having to play out of position ensures that your mentality never strengthens, and in turn your performances never get better. But the mentally strong athlete just gets on with things. Sure, they can get annoyed or frustrated by bad decisions or inconvenient moments, but they quickly detach themselves from that urge to just spend energy on something that they can't ultimately change. And look, it's so easy to fall into this habit. So to prevent it, my number 1 tip is to regularly ask yourself the question, will complaining change anything for the better? And in sport, 99% of the time, the answer is no. So stop whinging and just get on with it. Thing 2 is only work for guaranteed results. As you climb higher in sport, the margins of improvement for the same level of effort become smaller and smaller. And if you're a mentally weak athlete, you're going to be someone who only puts in effort when it's convenient, and the results are pretty much guaranteed, as well as proportionate to the amount of effort you put in. Take long distance running, for example. For most runners, going from a 30-minute to a 20-minute 5K is actually way easier than going from a 20-minute to an 18-minute 5K. The level of effort and dedication required for far smaller gains in terms of minutes shaved off your personal best just become crazily disproportionate the faster you actually get. And mentally weak athletes don't think this is worth it. It suits them to try hard when the gains are bigger and more predictable. But when more work is required for less progress and the outcome is more uncertain, most athletes just throw in the towel. But mentally strong athletes persist irrespective of this. They're willing to work even harder for significantly smaller gains. They will do a 12-week intensive training program to shave off just a few seconds from their personal best. They're comfortable with the fact that at the highest level, even if you put in all that extra effort for tiny improvements, there's still a chance that you won't get those gains. To be more like this, you need to learn to love the process and actually be less results obsessed. You can of course still want a specific outcome, but it's the day-to-day effort that you need to feel a sense of reward from in order to actually stick things out on the long term. 3 is spending time in the shallows. Now, what I mean by this is that mentally weak athletes often fall into the trap of convincing themselves that they're making progress just by consuming content. Watching videos, reading books, or listening to podcasts. But then they rarely or just inconsistently apply what they've actually learned. They're like a kid who says they've gone swimming, but they've just paddled about in the shallow end while still wearing their armbands. Because at that end of the pool, it's easy, it's safe, it's secure, you won't drown. But mentally strong athletes aren't afraid to dive into the deep end. They watch, read, or listen to one thing and then immediately go out and apply it. Even if they don't fully grasp or remember everything, they just dive in head first and trust themselves to figure it out. They don't need the armbands. They'll tread water for as long as they have to in order to make the improvements that they're looking for. Because mentally strong athletes know that to make improvements, you have to realize that there'll never be a perfect moment to make those improvements. You can't just spend your time acquiring all the knowledge if you're not going to actually use it. No one can learn how to ride a bike just by reading books on how to ride a bike. You have to get on the bike and actually pedal. So to stop spending time in the shallows, you have to get into the habit of asking yourself, what's the one tip, tool, or tactic that I've learned this week that I will focus on implementing into my game? And until you try that thing, you deny yourself the opportunity of consuming any other content whatsoever. Next up is not admitting when you need help. The mentally weak athlete shows true weakness by not getting support, guidance, and coaching when they really need it. They sabotage themselves by thinking it's a sign of weakness to admit that you need help. They believe they need to be a lone wolf and that they can do everything themselves. But that lies at the heart of why they eventually give up, because through their own stubbornness, they keep failing time and time again because of not getting regular feedback and advice from people who actually have more experience and know what they're doing. In contrast, the mentally strong athlete is not afraid to put their hand up and ask for help. They will have no shame or fear in saying, I'm struggling, I need some support. Because they know that getting that help is the shortcut to success. Every top pro in every sport has a coach, and yes, this is often by default from being part of a team. But beyond that, top pros work with a range of coaches and mentors on an independent basis. For example, Steph Curry has a shooting coach, and Tiger Woods has had several swing coaches throughout his career. And if you need help taking your game to the next level, then you should join my peak performance community, The Arena. Inside, we have athletes from all sports and every corner of the globe collectively building top 1% mentalities through weekly group coaching and daily community support. So if you're interested, check it out using the link below. And so the next thing is seeking validation from others. The mentally weak athlete is an athlete who is constantly looking over their shoulder to impress people. I've worked with athletes who've got into a really bad habit of constantly looking over at their coach after they performed any movement or play just to see their coach's reaction, constantly looking for any sign of approval. And a lot of the time, they're also too afraid to take risks in games because of fear of what their teammates might say if they make a mistake. And you don't have to be a genius to realize that these are huge barriers that stop athletes from playing with the complete freedom that's necessary to really make an impact during a performance. But the mentally strong athlete is, of course, mindful of other people's opinions, but they don't allow those opinions to dictate how they actually approach their craft. If a coach yells at them, they'll just accept it, and they'll extract any useful information from that interaction while simultaneously ignoring the negative emotions that have been thrown their way. And the same goes for teammates complaining about not passing the ball to them or whatever. The mentally strong athlete stands their ground on the decision to take a certain action, and they're absolutely fine with that leading to other people being annoyed at them. Because the mentally strong athlete knows that in sport, you can never please everyone. There will always be the teammate who is salty because you scored instead of passing to them, even though it ended up winning your team the game. Or you will experience outrage from a coach who pinpoints the one mistake that you made despite having an absolutely flawless performance otherwise. So whenever you face those moments of criticism, judgment, and even abuse, if you're going to be mentally strong, all you need to ask yourself is anything of use here? Ignore the tone and the emotion of the source of that feedback and instead seek out the actual practical information. Sometimes it's just another person venting because of their own frustrations about themselves, and you should completely ignore it. Whereas other times there is a useful nugget that you can actually act upon, so take that on board. But never seek validation and approval from others because it's often a lose-lose game. And then lastly, our final thing is not sticking things out long enough. The mentally weak athlete gives up way too early. They have childlike impatience, and their frustrations are rarely justified. Often they haven't even put in the number of hours necessary to get good at something, so they actually have no right to get angry or annoyed. It's the high school basketball player who trains hard and plays insane for one season and then suddenly thinks he should have all the top colleges clamoring over him with scholarships. No, you haven't earned that yet. Try 4 years of consistent all-in energy and top performances. Progress, development, and opportunity in sport only really comes to those who stick things out long enough and actually stay the course. And the mentally strong athlete is patient. They hustle every day knowing that the window of opportunity is, yes, gradually closing, but they know that it takes time to get to the level that they want to be at. They keep showing up despite going on trials and not getting offered a deal or getting benched for a string of games. They accept that the level of effort that they put in, again, does not guarantee the opportunities that they think they deserve. They know that sports is often about politics and perception management, that some people get more opportunities than others, not through ability and effort, but through connections and nepotism. But the mentally strong athlete just keeps at it. They know that some athletes will sneak in the back door, but they themselves have to keep waiting in line in the rain until they get let in. So you've got to be patient. You will only ever catch a break if you're still in the room when one finally pops up. And to help you build this patience and embrace the difficult challenges ahead as an athlete, then you should watch this video next.